type of event. I will give you a spiel about politics and policy and what we need to do to win this race, which I believe we can win, and I wouldn't be in this race if I didn't think we could. Before we do that, I thought we'd have a little music first. A little music. So I'm very honored to be joined today by two wonderful musicians. I'm going to introduce them individually. First, another woman who needs no introduction, a leader here in the Monterey Peninsula, the Artistic Director for Chamber Music Monterey Bay, a former professor at Oregon State University, on the board of Public Water now. And we've discovered last year, we went to the same chamber workshop 20 years ago. Please welcome Amy Anderson. And a dear old friend of mine on the piano. He just won an amateur competition in Washington, D.C. a few months ago. He's the founder of the Alden Piano Trio. He played with the Boston Pops in college. Not only is he an engineering genius, a manager at Apple, a wonderful pianist, a good friend of mine. Please welcome John Lee on the piano. This is the Ghost Piano Trio. We're going to play the first movement. And hope you like it. to switch gears. We'll play a little Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn was one of the many great chamber composers, and really had a lot of his most brilliant works in the earlier part of his life. This is one of his later works, however, D minor trio, first movement. Johnny, is there anything in common? You're gonna love it. We'll try to do. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, John. Yeah. Jack back on that one, can't we? I'd like to thank my moms here today. Bill Butler last week asked me how to get started on the violin. I said she made me do it. It was not the plan, but it's a good thing. It paid off, I hope. Thank you, Roberta and Bob, for securing the place. Thank you, Beverly, for the nice words. The main reason why I decided to do this, I've been working as an advocate 13, 14 years, and I think the initial plan, to the extent that I've been living by a plan, was that I would be an advocate forever, and that really my job was to get elected officials working with the public to do the right thing, especially when we have corporate power on the other side. But it's not going to work if we don't have enough people, enough elected officials pushing our agenda from the inside. We're not going to succeed. We're not going to solve all of our problems by ballot measure. I don't know if I wish we could, but it's just not going to happen. And so any objective look at the scientific reports about what's happening with the climate crisis, the status quo right now, we are headed right off a cliff. And I know that sounds dramatic, and my friends used to tease me when I was young that I was trying to save the world. I kind of resented that. I was like, no, I'm just trying to help people win some victories in their communities and help California be a better place. But as the older I've gotten, we are one small little planet. And it's really incumbent upon us here in California, in this country, to start leading by example. And when I look at the state of our politics, and some people say, why do you want to go to Congress? What a mess that is. Well, they're right. But how are we going to clean it up? We can't just stand on the sideline. And so when we look at the climate crisis, we see a need to replace fossil fuels with clean energy. That's really what it comes down to. We need to make enormous progress in the next 10 years. And so that is really what is driving me to do this, to be your member of Congress. And if I didn't feel like we had no chance, I probably wouldn't be running. But I actually, the optimistic side, this is our last chance. And I always say this is not personal with Jimmy. I have nothing against Jimmy or the Panetta family. This is about our needs and whether or not we're going to survive. So I say we fight. We banned fracking in all 3 counties here. We need to win a statewide ban. We need a national ban on fracking. If a bipartisan compromise are going to solve our problems, I wouldn't be running. And that's Jimmy's preferred approach, and God bless. If that was going to solve our problems, if that was going to reduce the pollution, if that was going to make our county affordable once again, no need to run. But it ain't solving anything. And so this politics and our elected leaders, this is not for the faint of heart. This is a fight with the oil and gas industry that is hell-bent on extracting every drop of oil on this planet. That is really the stated position of Chevron, is to keep drilling for every drop of oil. The rest of us be damned. We ain't going to let that happen. We can't let that happen. And so I'm motivated to be one of the top leaders in Congress fighting for clean energy, fighting the fossil fuel industry. I think we got to start with the grid. And Beverly mentioned PG&E. PG&E burned my aunt's house down last year in the Paradise Fire. Every time PG&E has screwed up, they've been rewarded with a rate hike and a bailout. We are very familiar with the California PUC, given how they treat us with respect to CalAm. And so what I'm saying, it's time for us. What is a Green New Deal? It means building local clean energy grids in every city in our district, whether that's in Salinas, Monterey, Watsonville, where I live. They shut the power off for 2 days in Watsonville and UC Santa Cruz because the fire was 200 miles away. And because PG&E has totally failed to modernize the infrastructure. So I'm a supporter, and many of you helped win Monterey Bay Community Power. It's a wonderful thing. But now it's time to build the clean energy locally. We have too much dirty energy on the grid. And let me say, I think we need a mandate. We have the Clean Air Act, passed by a more progressive Congress in the 70s, the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act, the last 2 major pieces of environmental legislation passed in this country. And that gives us the authority to directly regulate greenhouse gas emissions. The fossil fuel industry is pushing for a fee on carbon at a very low price, and they also want the Clean Air Act gutted. Can't happen. I think a carbon tax would have been the perfect solution 30 years ago. I am for raising taxes on the fossil fuel industry, but we need to mandate this through law. It's not enough time for carrots and sticks with the oil and gas industry. We need a mandate. Germany is closing its coal plants by 2028. We should be doing the same darn thing. With respect to agriculture, I met last night. I met one of the biggest organic farmers in Watsonville, and I said I'm concerned about mid-sized family farms going extinct. And he's like, "You damn well should be." We have amazing consolidation. Amazing is the wrong word. Troubling consolidation in the food system, where Walmart and Amazon are now the two biggest grocery stores in the country, and about 4 chains control most of the food retail. It is putting downward pressure on mid-sized farms. The pressure is to get big or get out, and it's also putting downward pressure on paying the farm workers, who have always been taken advantage of, in my opinion, as the grandson of a farm worker. So I'm tired of us fighting for crumbs when we need to rebuild our food system economically and environmentally. We have massive groundwater overdraft problems in the Salinas Valley and the Pajaro Valley. And this is a very troubling, because we have a beautiful climate here. One of the most amazing climates in the world. Some of the best soil to get big or get out, the days of feeding the world just because we can make the most money doing that. It's time to update our thinking. The political establishment in the Salinas Valley, I do not think is ready, is fighting that right now. I'm concerned about that. But as your Congress member, I'm not going to duck this issue. I want to show leadership on this issue and bringing people together, because there's so much to gain from a healthy agricultural system, both environmentally and through jobs. We should have more small farmers. There should be more distribution centers. There should be more small grocery stores. It's odd to me, it's shocking that the highest hunger rates in the state of California are in the Salinas Valley and the Central Valley, Fresno, the most productive agricultural regions in the world, because we do not have a food system that is yet working for us. And so I'm very excited actually to take that on, because we have to solve that. A little bit about the affordability crisis. Santa Cruz and Monterey County, as many of you know, are 2 of the least affordable counties in the United States. Santa Cruz goes between 1 and 2 with Kings County in New York, and the last I checked, Monterey County is the 7th least affordable. When you take people's median income relative to the cost of living, cost of housing. And so we are fighting in Santa Cruz County, and I think we're going to maybe be fighting here in Monterey County over more bond measures to fund badly needed repairs to Cabrillo College and other pieces of critical infrastructure. And while I'm supporting those measures, I'm saying it is time to bring our federal tax dollars home. We are a rich state, a rich country, but it is time to stop wasting our money on increased military weapons. We've been bombing the Middle East and Afghanistan for 20 years, and I can't really see the progress. Trillions of dollars. We have given tax cuts to billionaires and the richest people in this country who never needed them. Cost our budget trillions and trillions of dollars, and here we have 10% of our students in Monterey County are now homeless. And then Seaside, another 10% on top of that, are living in overcrowded conditions. So let's remember our history. We used to have money for real affordable housing in this country. We used to properly fund Section 8. It was all started to come unraveled in the 1980s when Reagan was president. So now's not the time to be depressed or feel hopeless. When I talk about these issues, when I meet with people and I see people suffering, if anything, I get upset. And it drives me to do this, because we do not have to take this. We should not take this. And the political establishment offers us excuses for why we can't have what we need. And we need to change that political reality. We have the Republicans, if they're on climate change, if they're not totally corrupt, we have too many Democrats who say, well, let's solve the problem by 2050, or we can't rock the boat right now. Well, it's troubling when so many Democrats are also taking the fossil fuel money, taking the agribusiness money, taking the insurance money. when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the 4 other members of the squad, as they're called, got elected. 55 members, there were only very few of them were not taking any corporate PAC money. After they got elected, 55 Democrats followed suit, and they said, this is the new trend. We need to get this party off of corporate PAC money and start fighting for the people. And I think when the Democratic Party starts to do that again, they will stop losing to the worst Republicans at the national level when we're actually prioritizing an agenda that wins real improvements in people's lives. Let me just say something about the immigration situation going on. I often talk about the need to undo the legacy of Ronald Reagan, but if there's one thing he did that I agree with in 1986 was the amnesty package with a path to citizenship. We have 11 million undocumented people in this country. It's estimated. Many of these people have been working in this country. They have been contributing to our society and contributing to our economy. I believe it is a big problem and a big priority to take care of this for all of our people here in this district. It is especially pronounced in the Salinas Valley and Watsonville to fight for a path to citizenship. I do not support Panetta's Farm Worker Modernization Act. I do not support increasing an H-2A Bracero-style program, taking us back to the 1940s to the benefit of certain growers. My friend Robert Rivas passed legislation passed last year, in 2019, that was trying to encourage some of the biggest growers to build affordable housing near their fields, real affordable housing that helps deal with the farm worker housing problem. They have refused to comply. What they want to build is H-2A dormitories for a new migrant force that's actually putting pressure on the existing working people in Salinas. This is not a solution. And speaking of new housing projects being unaffordable, a month ago, the Salinas City Council approved 4,000 new units. A new city on the north end of town, hardly anything affordable on the north end of Baronda, which many believe will be just a new bedroom community for Silicon Valley. So this fight, whether it's for affordability or a climate crisis, is really about our survival. Whether or not many of us will continue to get to live here on the Central Coast, and whether humanity will get to live on this planet. So I'm going in to fight. I fought with you, many of you, on many of these battles, and people said we couldn't win Measure Z. They said we couldn't win Measure J. Measure J was the water measure here, was the fracking ban measure in San Benito. But what I know and what I've seen so far in this campaign is that the issues we're talking about are resonating with most people. I didn't make them up, and I didn't go to a closet and think, what do people care about? This is what everybody's telling us. And they know we need big change in Sacramento, Washington, D.C., and frankly, at a lot of local government levels as well. It is time for people to run for office who want to fight for their community. Our campaign has been heavily active in Salinas. I want to recognize some wonderful people here from Salinas. Dulce Gonzalez is our field coordinator. Dulce, and walking right now, I said, no, you have to come and just have a good time a little bit. I think we've hit about 5,000 or so houses in Salinas. And we have done very, very well there. I also want to recognize the leaders of the next generation. What is this all for? Sunrise Movement, Sunrise Salinas. I'm honored to have their endorsement. I want to recognize Mateos Lozano and his mom, Evelyn Contreras, who have been leading that here in Salinas. Please stand up. Anybody here from Santa Cruz County besides me? Hey! Ryan, organic farmers. I go to Santa Cruz, Monterey, Salinas, San Benito every other day, and some people from Santa Cruz never go to Watsonville. We're one big family. We are in this thing to win this. We have a plan to win this race in November. On March 3rd, we need to finish in the top 2, and then we get 8 more months. I wouldn't have gotten into this race if I didn't feel confident. All the indicators are that we are headed to a good finish on March 3rd. So I want to thank you for being here. We will play a little more music, but to tell you a little bit more about the next steps, I want to invite good friend of mine, a leader on this peninsula for a long time, my water ally, your water champion, George Riley.
I'm going to assume that many of you were like me 6-10 months ago. Kind of like, Jimmy's going to run. I'll support Jimmy. Done deal. Now, interestingly, Monterey County's registration numbers, if you're familiar with them at all, it looks like this. Of all the registration in Monterey County, half are registered Democrat. 50%. The other 50% is split between Republicans, for about 25%, 24, 23, 26, somewhere, and everybody else. Declined to state and all the small parties. So the politics around Monterey County is you need to be a Democrat if you expect to get anywhere. And if you want to debate Jimmy Panetta on the issues, you're not going to do it with a Republican. You're going to do it with a Democrat. And that's why March 3rd is so important, because the issues need to be debated. The issues need to be brought home locally to us. I think Adam is a unique, well, first of all, he's young. I mean, I just love that part about him. And we've got to stop assuming that we know everything just because we're older. Because when it's time for somebody to run, if somebody asks me, well, you're young, it's time for you to run? And I would say, well, you're inexperienced, or you haven't been around long enough, or I know a lot more than you do. I'm going to assume all that. And so the question, but he said, but I want to run. So the question is, when's the right time to kind of pass the baton? When's the right time to support the new person? When's the right time to give another person an opportunity? Now, if it's just up to me, I'd say I'm better, more informed, and I should be the one. But it shouldn't be up to me. It should be up to the young person. When a young person says, I'm ready, I want to, I'm willing to put in the effort, I'm willing to do the work, I'm willing to go out and make the effort. When that person comes forward, we're really doing ourselves a disservice if we don't support that idea. That means he's an underdog, probably. And there are all sorts of reasons why some other candidate who's a lot older is going to go after him because he's young and experienced or whatever. And we don't do ourselves any favor when we cut off the next generation. When we cut off the next person who wants to come forward. We do ourselves a disservice when we don't even want to give that person opportunity because we know too much already. We know, I know, I'm older, okay? And that's bad for democracy. It's bad for us. It's bad for the next generation. And then I've got one other plug. It shouldn't be a plug, it's a demerit. My generation has been pretty crappy about being responsible for so many issues. The budget's gone north or south or wherever it goes, but it's not a real budget, the federal budget. And the immigration issue just goes and comes, goes, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. And then climate change is such a critical issue. And everybody's willing to kick the can down the road or do small things. Do small things. But small things matter. And there's one reason why I really like Adam, is that he wants to work locally. He wants to see things happen locally. Granted, the big stuff in Washington, and if he's elected, he's going to be one of, 435 people. Yeah. And, so that's one vote out of that many. It's hard to get things done in Washington. But what I think Jimmy fails us is when he doesn't address local issues. Mm-hmm. He stays on the federal level. And it's a clean slate for him to say, well, I don't get the state, I don't deal with the state issue, I don't deal with the local issue, no, that's county government, that's city, or whatever. But I'll do it. I'm going to help you at the federal level. But what Adam has proved is that he's got a track record at the local level. He's been an advocate on the main issues. He's been delivering results. And he's a local advocate. And you can't get any more personal than that, I think, in the kind of environment that we're in. And that's why I think Adam is the right guy. And March the 3rd is the right election. We need to get a Democrat to debate Democrat. That's where the politics are going to be. That's where the issues are going to be. And if you know anything about the Republican candidate, I mean, he can't win. He can't win. But we have a real opportunity to have a real debate in our community about federal issues, local issues, engagement issues, funding issues, where your money comes from, who you count to, who you listen to, who you report to. That kind of debate ought to happen. It ought to be happening all over the country. And we have such a wonderful opportunity right here, right now, because we have a young guy, a smart guy, a multi-dimensional guy. And what does Jimmy do but be a lawyer? I mean, everybody in Washington's a lawyer. Why is that a criteria for just going up and shooting off your mouth? That's what lawyers do anyway. Not taking any side where the money is. So there's several things about the March 3rd election I think that's really important. And I just want to, there's several ways to win an election. But basically they come down to some very key issues. First of all, you need an army in the field, or you need an energetic army, or you need some few people who will work their tails off day after day after day. And we got the range of those. And we've seen that happen with Jay. We've seen that happen with Z. He's seen it happen in other counties. And so the kind of combination of things that have to happen, the issues have to be right, candidate has to be right, the issue has to resonate. The field marshals and the field people and the soldiers who are doing this, the grassroots, have to be there, and they need money. So I'm here to make a pitch that if our generation doesn't come through, then I'm going to say people half my age in that group, if we don't come through to try to support the one opportunity that we haven't seen this in a long time in our county, a long time. And you rarely see it in the mayor's races either. And you rarely see it in the key leadership races around. You rarely see where a young person comes forward with such a skill set and a quick brain and an easy way with people and a way to communicate. We just don't see that often. It's a wonderful opportunity. But it's going to take us, it's going to take a lot more than what's in this room, and it's going to take money. And I just hope that we can come forward with a little help. The little research I've done suggests that we need to raise about $24,000 soon in order to do two things. One, try to get a mailer out to about 40,000 people. That sounds, oh God, I know. It's not that expensive. It costs about $450 to cover about 1,000. So 20,000 is anyway, $8,000 or so. We cover about half of that. 16 would cover 10,000 people, 40,000 people. And there's a Latino radio station there's several stations that are in play. If we can get the money to get the message out, that's very inexpensive. It's a huge population potential for Adam for this election. And remember, this is just step one. What we really want is a debate of the issues. That's what we really want. And then people can sort out where they think, what they want to do, how they want to vote, or whatever. That'll get it over. So he's got to get in the top two. And the only way to get the top two is he's got to get the message out. Now, he's all over the place. And a lot of us are helping in ways that we can. But maybe the one way that we haven't helped as much as we could is financial. So I'm going to just ask now, I want to know, are we a group of people who might be able to raise some chunk of that $24,000 to help him get his message out? Because the message is really to be win on March 3rd. And down deep, you know that if it's a Republican against a Democrat and they're the top two, it's a stupid race. It really is a dumbed down race. And if Adam can get into the top two, which means he's got to come in at least second to Jimmy. He's got to come in second. We will have a debate this year. We'll have a serious debate at the federal level, the local level, funding issues, priority issues, what's good for our county, what's good for the people, where do we stand on affordability, where do we stand on water issues or infrastructure issues? Where do we stand on the climate change? Where do we stand on affordability? Those kind of issues need to be discussed. The state of the damn budget that's going, the federal budget is going crazy with debt. And the Republicans who stood for years and years and years, if not generations, on fiscal responsibility, what they do? Punt? There just needs to be a debate. And the way to get there is throughout. I mean, we tried to cut the population group off in half. My age, you half that. You guess. You know the idea. We're the ones who are going to have the money. We can't expect the young people to finance the young people's campaigns. We cannot expect that. If they give $10, that's probably a stretch. But it shouldn't be a stretch on us. It shouldn't be that kind of stretch. We should be giving 3 digits. We should be giving $100, $500, $1,000. We should be doing our part to make sure we get it. We need this debate. Thank you very much.
That's worth it.
Thank you very much.
I'll give 500.
Thank you. 1,500. Thank you. Over here.
I'm proudly modest, and I give 100 today.
Thank you so much. Accept the 500. Again?
I'm giving 500.
500. Thank you. 100. Thank you so much. I can't add the math in my man, but I'm feeling really good.
I would give 1,000.
You give 1,000. So do we have any volunteers for the low 3 digits? Or even the 2 digits? Can we get there? You know, every little bit helps. I'm not gonna, no kidding.
$20?
20. Come on, we can do a little more than this. You know, that generation is great. But they're probably doing what they can afford too. What can you afford? You know, can you help this campaign? I'm just looking for more hands. Any number, anything. Thanks. $100. Thank you so much. And quietly, you just want to do this on your own without raising your hand. It's all welcome. All good. It's all good. So that's my pitch. That's my hope. We need the debate. I hope you tell your friends. Hope you tell them go to adamscow.com. You can donate online.
.org.
.org, excuse me. Com part I know now, right? Yeah, he's not accepting any PAC money, and he's not accepting any corporate money. So it's really up to us. It's up to our generation, I think, and our level of ability in our area to support the debate. We have such a wonderful opportunity to have that debate. We don't get that debate. And we normally don't get it between any Democrat and any Republican. They just talk like this. You know, this is absolutely eyeball to eyeball. This is exactly the kind of debate we need. And you can help make that happen. So I hope you continue to think positively and look up Adam Scow. We have a little more music.
continue with a little more Mendelssohn. This is from the second trio, Andante Espressivo. Andante in Italian means walking. Not too fast, not too We have one last number for you this afternoon in this little variety show. We're going to play a little Argentinian piece called Oblivion by Astor Piazzolla. We'll move on now. Violin, one of the leaders for Measure J here, my senior campaign strategist.
Wonderful afternoon. Incredible job. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us. And I just wanted to say that any of you who are making donations today, see Jean afterwards. She will take good care of you. I promise you that. Jean, where are you? Jean, right back there. Or you can just go directly to, take out your cell phone, and it's easy to do at adamscow.org. No problem. Very simple. One other thing I wanted to say too, if you're not in a position to donate today, but you want to be a part of what it is that Adam represents, you want to be a part of this thing that George described, our ability to actually make an argument for this perspective and to stand up to the status quo and really do something a little bit different for a change. Volunteer. There are lots of opportunities, and something that Adam didn't go into, or George, but I wanted to point out is that we've got people all over this district, all the way from Santa Cruz to Hollister and on down, that are out walking for Adam and talking about Adam and sharing flyers in their own neighborhoods. So we've got plenty of flyers back there which you can take and just pass flyers out to the people you love, the people you want to be part of this thing that we're pushing forward here. And we got lawn signs back there as well. So feel free to take those as well. So, and if you're interested in getting on our, we've got a volunteer mailing list that we mail directly to keep them current on what it is that we're doing. See me afterwards. I'll make sure you're on that list. I'll make sure you get all the details about what we're doing, where and when, and all the help that Dulce needs over in Salinas. We'll help her out. So with that, thank you very much. And before I leave, I just want to thank Roberta Myers and Bob Evans. And the members of the House of Four Winds Foundation, correct?
Right, right.
Did I get that right?
You got that right.
Excellent. All right. So again, thank you so much for your donations. We're incredibly grateful for that. Because without your donations, man, this is not going to happen. So thanks so much.